Can I now invite Lisa Praga, please, to come to the table? And Lisa's going to talk to us about the Waitemata Safe Route Cycleways, the first of two presentations on that. So maybe we could take questions together. I'm not sure, Charles Joseph, is Charles here? Charles, do you want to come to the table at the same time? It's both on the same topic. It might make sense to run it together. Lisa, could we start with you, please?
Yes, good morning. In the light of what the Teachers Association have just said, I'd like to express my deep concern about what is happening in Auckland and to follow up on Waiheki's concerns. Our concern in Westmere is not of the magnitude of theirs, but it is no less important. I'm here to talk to you as the governing body of Auckland Transport about the rollout of the cycleway in Surrey Crescent, Garnet Road and Richmond Road. Yes, I am a resident and a business owner. And I want to say there is one resounding message from the people directly affected by the cycleway rollout, that is the shopkeepers and the residents of those streets. Stop, halt, woe. I bet none of you know how much the cycleway is costing. This particular section, this 5 kilometre section alone is costing. Anybody want to take a guess? I've got the number through an official information request that took me 3 months to get, and here's the number. $4,359,769.77 on 5 kilometres of cycleway. A cycleway that is controversial, a cycleway that is going to go the same way as the Wellington cycleway, where $2.5 million was spent and another $2 million is to be spent to rectify it. Why? Because none of you in the governing body have bothered to take up our invitation to come to our neighbourhood and to see for yourself what is really going on. We have 50% of the parking taken away in my street, and in Westland, all of the car parks have been taken away in front of Harvest Foods, the local dairy, the local fish and chip shop and the Moa dress shop. That's 100% of the parking that has been there for the last 70 years. What is wrong with you people? Is there a definite determination to destroy retail in our small heritage strips? Are you all getting kickbacks from the local malls with their limitless parking and their all-weather shopping?
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for a moment? That is totally out of order, and I would ask you to desist from making comments. We're listening to your argument. You have the opportunity to make your argument. You do not have the opportunity to make libellous statements in this committee or in any other forum. So please continue.
Mayor, explain to me how Auckland Transport can have 6 meetings with the local shopkeepers in Westland and still turn up and go, the plan is set in concrete, we are immovable, when the shopkeepers are saying, if they have a bad Christmas, they will all be out of there. Is that part of your social community building, think local plan? I find myself driven to make statements like that because I can only find one explanation for $5 million being spent on 7 cyclists a day who go up Garnet Road. And that is somebody is making a lot of money out of this idea. We need stormwater. We need all sorts of other things rather than a cycleway on both sides. Now, none of you have come and seen the work being done. And I also want to point out that this is predicated on what is meant to be a genuine consultation process. So how is it I can have a letter on one hand on the 12th of June 2017 saying thank you, we appreciate the 1,200 submissions, and yet I can have on the 7th of July via an OIA that the tender has been set? That tells me that there has been 4 weeks. And in this document, which is saying we will come back to you with a revised consultation, it's a done deal. And that's why I'm not afraid to be libellous in this particular house, because I'm not being libellous, I'm actually telling the truth. Now, I'm trying very, very hard here to keep my cool. But the actions of Auckland Transport despite going to the
Sorry,
board
can
and
you
invite...
just conclude your comments, please, Lisa?
Is that my 60-second bell?
Oh, yeah, you've got a minute to go.
Thank you very much. Yet again, shortcutting the ratepayer. Now look, I don't want to make more enemies out of you people than I already have over the years by coming to you and passionately arguing my community's concerns. But we have not seen a health and safety report or a traffic report. And when the contractor came down and spent an hour with me watching what was going on, he agreed with me that the project was insane, but he was just following orders. Now, has this council heard from the Parnell Business Association, who've had 6 mediated meetings with Auckland Transport, all concerned about this cycleway plan? This cycleway plan has not been tested. It has not been tried. And look, I am not anti-cycle, but if you think bicycles in Auckland are going to change the effects of climate change, then consider the amount of concrete you're pouring over the permeable surface has a higher carbon footprint than anything else. Now look.
Thank you very much. Could we hear from Charles, and then we'll open it for questions.
My name is Charles Joseph, and I'm speaking to the rollout of the cycleway in my neighbourhood, Greyland, Westmere. I'm going to start with a cliche. I like bikes. My wife and I spent over $1,000 several years ago on 2 bikes. We have travelled and continue to travel all over Auckland on our bikes, and I believe bike travel is the future and should be fostered. My issue is with the design of the cycleway and the poor consultation process. Why am I speaking to you? Well, AT, Auckland Transport, is calling the shots here. They are in charge of the roads, but you are the interface, our interface with them, and you need to be informed of my concerns. I believe the cycleway in my neighbourhood is potentially dangerous, expensive, and at the very least poorly researched. When the cycleway proposal was put forward, I got involved with the offered consultation process. I had problems with the reduction in parking, placing of the cycleway on the footpath, and the expense. But most importantly, it's the realignment of the 170-year-old Old Mill Road that runs behind the zoo to make it, in effect, a minor road. A single entry-exit road is created. The island becomes an extension of the curb. Parking is being reduced drastically. The consequences of this are really not being properly considered. They will drive people away from the smaller retail shops to the malls. Cycleway on the footpath carries swift-moving cyclists closer to commercial doorways. Health and safety used to insist on uncluttered footpaths in front of these doorways. Now they're closer to those doorways, closer to garage doors and domestic gates. Pedestrians, especially the old, prams and wheelchairs, will now be in close proximity to fast-moving bikes, especially what are known as heavy bikes or electric bikes. The new sealed cycle path reverses work done approximately 10 years ago by the council to make all footpaths in the Westmere Greyland area more permeable. Now we will have more runoff into the already heavily polluted Westmere Beach and Cox's Bay, where we can't swim in the summer. There is a huge problem with the cars crossing and parking over the cycleway. To enter my garage, I have to pull off the road, raise the garage door, and all the while I'm going to be partially or wholly over the cycleway. My primary concern in this, though, is the intersection at the Old Mill and Garnet Road being reduced to one entry and exit. Unless you have local knowledge of this intersection, it will mean little to you, but in the consultation period, I needed people to see how the new design was not an improvement. I talked standing on the island that is there, built in the 1970s, with Aaron Hutchings, who's now gone, Pippa Coombe came, and Bruce Thomas from Auckland Transport. We observed that the traffic was flowing well, there was no traffic incidents, even cyclists were safe. It has been operating like this for 40 years while I've lived there. I asked what were the reasons and justifications for the change. There were vague claims that the realignment would make the intersection safer. I stated the intersection was safe and worked well to carry traffic through the suburb. It was suggested I put in an OIA to find out what a safety audit had found out about the site, what traffic engineering research had been carried out, why so much expense was being outlaid and for what gain. Fair enough, I thought. The experts know what they're doing. I'm prepared to be convinced. But no traffic engineer ever came to explain the poorly drawn maps. The promised OIA safety audit only arrived 2 weeks ago. Construction has already begun. And after perusing the 89 pages, there is some mention of 2 roads coming off the Old Mill Road at Well Park and Westview. There is a detail of the blocking of the Old Mill Road entrance and joining the island next to Westview Road, but there is no safety order detail whatsoever of this new entry-exit from Garnet Road and Old Mill Road to the remains of Old Mill Road. This entry-exit will carry all traffic coming up from behind the zoo, from all the destinations in that area. It will carry all traffic turning into that portal from Garnet and Old Mill Road through 2 narrow lanes. I believe the new layout is potentially dangerous. It is an unnecessary concentration and a pinch point. Traffic is heavy there during peak hours, school arrivals and departures, during major events at the zoo, during events at Western Springs and Pacifica, access to Western Springs College and Pasadena Intermediate. There's a lot of places there. Motat, Speedway. In fact, during concerts at the stadium, Great North Road is sealed off and all traffic from Great North Road will detour through this 2-lane bottleneck. What will the suggestion of pollution be like that there in the future? It takes till 1:30 a.m. in the morning for traffic to clear now. Back to this, it'll take longer. Throw in 2 bike paths, and pedestrian crossing, and I believe cyclists will be at more risk. A very dangerous corner junction has been created. No evidence of thorough safety consideration exists. No artist visualisation or impressions have been created to see how the new intersection will work. In fact, an accident record kept since 1991 shows 14 minor accidents in this total vicinity. I am frustrated by the rigidity of the due process. Local knowledge and ideas have not been listened to. The fact that I am told I can be part of a safety audit after construction, I find ridiculous. If this means photographing and recording and cleaning up after accidents, it will give me no satisfaction to be saying, I told you so, and holding the people responsible for these decisions to account.
Thank you. I don't have the expertise to know the answer to your concerns, but we can certainly pass those on and require a response from Auckland Transport on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Questions? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, and thank you both. Can we take from your presentation that you have 3 concerns: the cost of the cycleway project, the design of the cycleway project, and the reluctance, if I could put it that way, of Auckland Transport managers to take community consultation or to listen seriously?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions around the table? Councillor Simpson.
Can you tell me if the local board was in support of the cycleway?
The local board's response was to Auckland Transport officially. We neither but we still want a cycleway. And we are very concerned about that, given that Pippa Coombs is the high priestess of the religion of cycleways in the Western Bays.
I will, just on Pippa Coombs, she has come and visited me and she has saved 2 tiles that were made by artists in the local area. They're going to be removed. 2 parking spots that the local hairdresser would just completely fail without them. And she also agreed to get the Pahutakawa tree that's on that island shifted rather than cut down, because even the bike lobby would see that as not a good look. So the Pahutakawa tree's gone, but it was her who did that, so I must congratulate her on that.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Sayers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentations. Obviously, it's can hear your frustrations. So I think my questions have been asked, but if I could just add to it, what really concerned me was listening about the retail shops in particular. Obviously, the safety issues, but employment opportunities and small-time businesses going out of business potentially. So, Lisa, perhaps if I direct it to you, is there a compromise, a solution? Does the cycle track be on one side of the road? Could you just enlighten what that answer is?
Yep, we've explored that, and our first question is, why do we need to put cycleways on arterial routes when there are much better and safer inner threats? If you live in Auckland, as I have, and in my area for the last 45 odd years, then you know that you can take shortcuts aiming towards the flatter, easier paths, cutting across parks if you wanted to get from Garnet Road to Williamson Ave. You don't need to travel all the way up the hill and then around the corner and so on. So we want the Auckland Transport to look at providing information that allows cyclists, or indeed, here's an idea, Auckland Transport could create an app that told cyclists exactly the easiest, flattest, quickest route, and through the leafy suburbs where we're a quiet neighbourhood. Why do we need to put, what is not yet an intense number of people, on main arterial routes? And, the bike lobby would say, if you build it, they will come. Well, I'm sorry. I want a boat ramp at the end of Garnet Road to ride my sea legs from my shop down into the Waitemata. Well, I'm not going to get it because it doesn't benefit all people, just a few. And so the bottom line here is we need to stop, halt, whoa, and rethink this. We need to get the board, we need to get members of this council down with the contractors who are all going, well, yeah, it's a joke, isn't it? When the bus stop pulls up in front of the local dairy and the bike lane suddenly stops being on the road, mounts the footpath right in front of the dairy where there are mothers and kids and dogs and all that going on at 3 o'clock, and then kind of whoopsies, down back onto the road. I mean, it looks like kids on drugs have sat around a map and put coloured lines everywhere.
The short answer is the design should have been thought about more. I mean, I spent 2 months in Canberra earlier this year, and they're a bike city, and you would not believe how well designed that is. I came back and the public and bikes go everywhere, they interact really well. And I came back to Auckland and saw what we were doing, and I thought, my God, people have thought about it there, and here there's sort of ramrodding through. So the short answer is yes, the design should be rethought about. Otherwise, you can have a situation like what's going on in Wellington at the moment, where they built the cycleway and now they have to redo it again. And so, I mean, if somebody gets hurt, as I'm saying, you might be coming back here and thinking, well, heck, we better get AT to redo it. So the 4 million becomes 6 million, becomes 8 million, Design, you're right.
Thank you very much. Last question, Councillor Fletcher.
Well, thank you. My question is to Charles. I know that the issue of cycleways has been controversial at times, and I got called into on constituency matters to Richardson Road with Parnell and now with Westmere. Very often the response is, well, this is just commercial enterprises peevish about the fact that there's loss of parking.
Yep.
I want to be quite clear. Is your concern over the design and the failure to do a safety audit in advance of the execution of this policy?
Absolutely,
In
yes.
the rush to roll this policy out?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, it would be very good if we could get some satisfaction on the issue of the safety audit
Yes.
that has been undertaken.
Thank you. Right, I'll move that we receive and note the 2 public input presentations, and to thank both Lisa and Charles for that input. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Clow. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Thank you very much for your presentations, and Charles, you'll email that to us so we can forward it. Thank you. Right, I'll now move that the resolution to exclude the public from discussion of C1 and C2 of our agenda, the briefing from the Office of the Auditor General and the adoption of the annual report. It's been seconded. Councillor Filipaina. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. And if I could please ask members of the public to leave the room while we move into confidential session.